there's always one. Can I get a witness here? Deacon Finney, I learned a long time ago that one is necessary. Because if everybody was on the same page, we might forget our direction and think everything is all right. But we need a one. We need a betrayer. One that's going to go against the grain. One that's going to always stir up some mess. Can I be real in the house? But it's all right. Because God has it in control. As Scotty sung earlier, it's well with my soul. It's well. I don't trip, lose sleep off the one that is the betrayer, off the one that's causing mess. I go to sleep at night because I know he that watches over me never slumbers, nor does he sleep. Can I get a witness here? See. Jesus was teaching his apostles at this meal. He taught them that these men that was with him from the beginning, that there's a new covenant coming. Yes, you've been under the law for so long and you weren't able to, but now I've come. And how many of you know that grace is much more sufficient? Can I get a witness here? Anybody know his grace to be sufficient? Look, you know, there have been others that have made fun of us at our Lord's table. And they're all some cannibals, some vampires, eating what represents the body and drinking what represents the blood. See, Jesus said, you know what? Let me make this real to them, because the bread and the wine is not nothing new to that culture at that time. Because bread and wine was ate at every meal. They was familiar with it. Jesus just gave a whole new definition to it. I wish I had some help in the room. He gave a whole new meaning to it. He said, from now on, when you do this, when you pick up bread, think of my body. And now this was before they beat him. They were like, well, Lord, we understand it's your body, but why won't we remember your body? With my spiritual eye and imagination. After they had beat him and beat him and scourged him and ripped the flesh from his back, punched him in the face, threw rocks at him and spit on him, just brutalized his body. I believe his apostles now understood when he said, do this in remembrance of my body. This bread that you need to survive, you also need me. Come on, help me somebody. Do this in remembrance of me, of what I suffered for you. Remember what he said? He said, I was very eager to eat this with you before my suffering ends. Before they beat me like they do. I want to eat this with you and put something on your mind. Jesus, he told him, he said, and now, can you picture him at the table? Sister Fern, you know, they didn't have big, nice cushioned chairs back then. They were sitting on the floor. But my Bible tells me, Brother Dale, that they were reclining at the table. They were relaxed at the table. See, when you commune with God, you ought to be relaxed. You ought not let things get you so twisted up and tangled up and tied up in what was going on in the world and what may be going on at your house and what may be going on at your job. When you come to the Lord's table, you ought to be relaxed because Jesus is in the room. You're about to partake in a communion with God. They were reclined at the table. And Jesus enjoyed this fellowship with these brothers because they believed his message of the kingdom. Y'all remember they were the ones that followed him knowing that he was truly the Messiah. You remember what Peter said, Lord, you are the Messiah? They were the ones that had left everything in order to follow him. They had been called to a form of discipleship and they answered the call. Can I get a witness here? See, you know, a lot of times we think of this here as just being a tradition, something that we do. That, you know, that ain't real wine, that's grape juice. That old wafer sometimes gets stale and it, you know, it don't taste too good. I wish I could really preach this like I feel this today. I'm so glad they don't use that little cup with that little styrofoam bread on it, because that's sure enough nasty. I wish they would hurry all to this first Sunday. They're going to do communion. I ain't going there. They're going to be there a little longer than they normally be, because that's going to be after the service. I ain't got time for all that. We need to be more in remembrance of him. When you pray, you ought to pray in remembrance of him. When we come to the Lord's table, as he instructed, we ought to do it in remembrance of him. Let me help somebody. We are not just talking about in remembrance of what happened on the cross and what happened 3 days later. That is the foundation of it. But you ought to look back at your life and see what God, and remember what he has done for you. Remember how the doctor told you one thing and you decided that it was all over, but he brought you through. You ought to remember when it was broke, busted, disgusted, and next thing you know, a check showed up or somebody came up and put $1 in your hand. You ought to remember every time when you cussed, lied, and cheated, Lord help me right now, that God still saved your soul. You need to remember that when your days got dark, he allowed the sun to still shine. You ought to do it in remembrance of him, knowing that no matter what the situation is, no matter what predicament you find yourself in, God is able. He is able to see you out. I don't care how your body feels. He's able to heal it. And guess what? Guess what? Even if he don't make it brand new, he'll make it for you to keep doing what you need to do. He'll make you run when you feel like just walking. He'll make you jump when you want to sit your behind down. God is still in control. As often as you do this, you ought to do it in remembrance of him. Let me break another one of y'all's traditions. Because you know, Deacon Franklin say, well, only the ordained. Oh, I'm going to preach this today because I feel it all deep inside of me. Only the ordained ought to be able to give the Lord's Supper. I don't want to take it from a woman because she ain't ordained. God didn't call women. I don't want to take it from somebody that the pastor ain't laid his hands on and he's been ordained. Let me help somebody in the room today. Look. You ought to do it in remembrance of him. You know what? I don't care who gives it. All I want to do is take the bread in my hand and take the cup in my hand and say, this is his body. I'm doing it in remembrance of him. And this is the blood that had washed my black soul and made it white as snow. It ain't about who serves it to you. It's about what you do with it when you get it in your hands. What you do with it when you consume it. Are you going to remember him? Are you going to remember what he brought you through? Are you going to remember what he did for you? See, the only tradition that God is concerned about is that you remember him. He said, you have no other God before me. As a matter of fact, I want y'all to remember that I loved you so much that I sent my only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. That's what you need to remember. You don't need to remember. Well, they got them white gloves on. I guess their hands clean. So what? Well, those mothers, they prepare behind closed doors. So what? It's because we do what we do, because not only do we recognize and acknowledge, but we also affirm his sovereignty and how precious the moment is. That's why we don't do it any kind of way. We don't handle it any kind of way. But look, don't get caught up in who's serving it. get caught up in what you should remember of who it represents. Can I get a witness here? My brothers and sisters, we need to be ready. We need to remember that Jesus had to die that we might live. Jesus had to die, for his death was the basis of our salvation. Don't you know that if he wasn't beaten, battered, and scored, if he wasn't crucified on the cross and died on the cross, you would have no way to salvation. That's the way God chose that you may be made right or justified with him, by his death on the cross. And that's why we partake and we remember, we come, even knowing that what took place on that day, there was a betrayal there. You know what? I thank God for Judas. I know that sounds funny to some of y'all. I thank God for Judas. Because see, you know what? Judas, Jesus knew who Judas was, and he recognized him, he identified him, and even on that night, he came up, and Judas and said, man, you're going to betray me with a kiss? Come on, help me somebody. Well, guess what? Brother Gerald, we got some betrayals now, won't even kiss a brother. Woo, help me right now. All they want to do is stab us and talk about us. But guess what? Yeah. But what we have to do is concentrate on what we are doing in remembrance. Look what Paul said. Look what Paul said to the church at Philippi. He said, every time I think about you, I give thanks to God. Progressive, every time I think about you, I give thanks to God. Because since I've been here, almost 3 years now, you have joined me in this fight for the gospel, in the spreading of the gospel. I shared with somebody here just a few days ago. I've been watching. Come on, help me somebody. I know the ones that are real about this thing called ministry. I know those ones that are willing to sacrifice and go an extra step for this thing called the gospel. But you know what? Those that are not, we ain't giving up on you, baby, because I believe God is still able. Remember we told about his grace is amazing? You're going to either catch on sooner or later. I believe you're going to catch on, because as it was already said, God cares not that even one should perish. And I believe that if you continue to stay under the preached word of God, we continue to study together and pray together, we're going to grow stronger together. And the church of Jesus Christ will be revealed in these dark and evil days. As long as we continue to press our way and remember why we do what we do. Remember why we shout like we shout. Remember why we do the ordinances and the other things in the church that we do. We don't do it for fashion or fame or for show. We do it in remembrance of him. So let me help somebody. When you pray, pray in remembrance of him. Brother Sanders, total remembrance of him. Everything he has done. Let me help you. Not just in the New Testament, because he was there in the beginning. They said, let us make man in our image. Jesus spoken of in the Old Testament as well as the New. We need to always remember from the time he said, let there be, and it became, until the time when he says, I'm Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, and it's all over. This side, we need to always remember him. Sister Fern, I love what he said. Paul said, I have great confidence. Great confidence has gripped me because of you and the work that you are doing. I I have a great confidence that he that has begun a good work in you will complete it against the day of Jesus Christ. Pastor, what do that mean? What do that really mean? Does that mean he that has stopped me from drinking and smoking, or he that has delivered me from prison, or he that has stopped me from doing this, that, and another? No, baby, that ain't what it means. What it really means is that he has begun the work of instilling his ministry and his purpose and his plan in your heart, and he's going to continue to work that out in you. In other words, you may not be as strong of a soldier right now, but he will complete the work that he has begun in each and every one of us. Every day of our lives, he is constantly working on us. Every time you wake up and you see the dawn of a new day, guess what? New grace, new mercy is coming your way. He shares more of him every single day. Hallelujah. Paul said, I'm convinced. And that's why I thank my God every time, in every remembrance of you, always in every prayer of mine, making requests for you with all joy. Fellowship in the gospel from the first day until now. Be confident of this very thing, that he who has begun the good work in you will complete it until the day of Jesus Christ. When I think of what Jesus has done for us, whenever my load gets heavy, my back starts to hurt and my knees get weak, when my mind starts to wonder, Lord, is it really worth it? Lord, should I continue to go? Lord, will I be able to make a difference? He brings back to my remembrance that he's my burden bearer, my heavy load sharer. He said, I'll give you the words to say and the time to say them. All you have to be is available and obedient. Can I get a witness here? When I think of the goodness of Jesus and all that he's done for us, my soul says yes. It cries out to him, thank you, Lord, for saving a wretch like me. I once was blind, but now I see. I was lost, but now I'm found. Lord, you've done great things for me. When I think about it, my soul gets happy. When I think about it, and look, like our call to worship said, these things I have spoken to you while being present with you, but the helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all things I have said. Peace. Somebody don't hear me. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, but I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, nor be ashamed, be scared. Don't be afraid of anything. This joy that I have, the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. This thing that's deep down inside of me, Jesus put it there. And if Jesus put it there, every time it wells up, every time I feel fire in my bones, I'm going to give him praise. I'm going to acknowledge his name. I'm going to shout hallelujah. I'm going to say thank you, Lord, for all you've done for me. Everything that I do in remembrance of him. God bless you and God keep you. Give him praise. Do it in remembrance of him. Think about the sacrifice he made for you. Think about the suffering he endured for you. He did it for you. He did it for a sin-sick world, that it might be saved. So my brothers and sisters, now we extend an invitation. We open the doors of the